Hello, good morning, and welcome to Daf Yomi Maseches Moed Katan Daf Chav Beis number 22. As we continue to make up the lost ground, and because I wasn't able to learn for 4 days, because I had a baby, a daughter, Baruch Hashem, she's healthy, my wife's recovering, and she had a C-section, but she'll get there, she'll be better. All right, we're gonna start from the bottom of Chav Aleph Beis. Tan Rabbanan, about 5 lines up, the last of the small lines. Tan Rabbanan, Avel, give me Yom Rishonim, Bami Makam Karav, Moni Imoin. An Avel, within 3 days of mourning, if he comes from a close place, so they explain at a close place, he's less than a day's distance away, say now by car, by travel, even by air travel, it would still be called Makam Karav, Monei Iman, meaning he wasn't there at the time when the person died, and he didn't start sitting Shiva with the people who started sitting Shiva, but he wants to come to the house to sit Shiva with them. He's required. This is one of his Zion Krovim. So if he comes from within a distance of a day, and he comes before 3 days have elapsed, so he starts sitting Shiva with them, meaning even though they sat Shiva for already 2 days, he only sits Shiva for another 5 days, even though he didn't observe the first 2 days of Shiva. But if he came from a far place, even though he came within 3 days, he came from a distance of more than a day away, so then he has to start counting Shiva himself for 7 days. Mikan ve'elach, from 3 days on, Tanakama holds, if he comes after 3 days, he didn't come from, even though it was a makom karov with distance of less than a day, he has to count by himself. Even if he comes on the 7th day before the mourners have got up, in Makam Karov, he comes from Makam Karov, a close place, Moni Iman, he only technically has to sit Avelus maybe for 1 day or half a day. Amar Mar, Tanakama says, Gil Yom Rishon Makam Karov Moni Iman. Amar L'chei Bar Abba, Amar Yochanan, Hushi Yesh Gadol Habayis B'Bayis. It only applies, the Tanakama would only say this, is when the Iker mourner, the main mourner, the Gadol Habayis, the older brother, the oldest person there, started the Shiva normally. He was the first person to start the Shiva. Ibailahu, Halach, top of Chav Beis Amud Aleph, Halach Gadol Habayis LeBeis HaKvaros. The great big person went to the Beis HaKvaros, Mahu, meaning in a case where, let's say they're flying the dead person from America to Eretz Yisrael, so the people that accompany the dead body to the airport, and they don't proceed on to Eretz Yisrael, so when they turn away from the Avel, he's not buried yet, so then they start Shiva. But the Gadol Habayis, the oldest person, he was flying to Eretz Yisrael, and his Avelus only starts when the burial happens. So the Gadol Habayis is not starting with them, they're starting a day or two beforehand. Now, does that count if the Gadol Habayis started in the beginning, and therefore a person who came Makam Karov, B'toch Shlosha, B'toch Shiva, according to Reb Shimon, would be able to count with them and not have a full 7 days. Tashma, Damar, B'chi, Barabba, Amar, Yochanan, I feel a whole Gadol Habayis, the Beis HaKvaros, Monei Imoin, even if he went to the Beis HaKvaros to bury him, Monei Imoin, he counts with them, meaning he counts from Makom Karov, and even the Gadol Habayis doesn't have to have a full 7 days. That Tanya, this is really true, Monei La'atzmo, it said that the Gadol Habayis, a person who comes from Makom Karov, within 7 days should have to count Atzma. If the Gadol Habayis comes back, or he starts sitting Shiva within 3 days of leaving, of the first mourner starting in Arvelos, when they left the airport, he buried him within 3 days, then he's considered to be the Avelus, he was part of the Avelus, and he only observes, let's say, 4 days or 5 days. Rav said to the people from Salfuni, they came within 3 days. Count with the original mourners. If he didn't come back from the burial within 3 days, then he counts by himself, and also the people that came Makom Karov also would have to count by themselves. You who don't go with the bed, you don't go all the way to Eretz Yisrael, you don't go all the way to the burial. When you turn your backs from the gates of the city where you left the dead person to escorting the dead person continued on to a different land, a different place, you start counting your Avelus. We'll see, you start counting your Avelus once you turn away from the Avel, from the dead person, from the coffin, and then you start counting. Rishon Omer Afilu Babi Yom Hashvi Makom Karov Moni Mon Amar Kibar Abba Gam Damar Yosef Ben Shalom or Rebbe Bushaba Matzah Ben Nachman Etzla. We has to have people that are still sitting shiva. Boy Ravana Ninru Lamod V'Lam. Let's say he comes back to the point they're getting ready to stand up. They're stirring to stand up, but they didn't actually stand up yet. Mao, meaning there's no more people comforting them, but they haven't really gotten up. They're still sitting shiva. Does that count that they're still sitting shiva? And where it says take it, we're not sure. Gmiri Chavrei Rabbi Abba Barchia Rabbi Abba. The friends of Rabbi Barchia, they learn from Rabbi Man Rabbi Zera. Who is the friend of Rabbi Zera? Amila Chavrei Rabbi Zera. The friend of Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Zera. From Rabbi Zera, Man Rabbi Abba Bar Rabbi Barchia. Who is the friend of Rabbi Zera? Rabbi the Rabbi Barchia Bar Abba. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Halacha Ke Rabbi Shimon Gamliel B'Treifos. Halacha follows Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in Halacha B'Treifos. We'll see soon what that halacha is. Halacha Krishim Ba'avel, halacha Shimon in Avel. Krishim Ba'avel, what halacha is that? Hada Amran. We just said that if a person comes from Makom Karov in 7 days, he counts with the mourners. Krishim Gamliel B'Treifos. What's that halacha? That's not Mnei Ma'ayim Sheniklu V'Leicha So Smasan. If there was a hole in the stomach cavity, the abdomen of the animal, and a mucus plugs up the hole, so that therefore it's not a treifa anymore. It's not called a treifa. A treifa. Divrei Rishon Gamliel. Ma'alecha. What exactly is this mucus that we're referring to? Amar Kana Shirka Demaya the Nafish Agav Duchka. It's a fluid in the stomach that when you press on the stomach, it oozes out and it closes up this hole. Amar Man Dehu. A certain person said, I want to go and hear it from the horse's mouth. I want to hear it from the rabbi himself, who said, when he went there, he found Rabba, son of Rabbi Barabba. His halacha follows Shem Gamliel on the Treifos. Amrulay Ana Ein halacha. I really said halacha is not like Shem Gamliel on the Treifos. Amri Ana Ein halacha Amri. Reb Shimon Ba'avel Mai is halacha like Reb Shimon by Avelis. Amrulay Pluksin, and that is a machlokas whether halacha follows Shimon by Avelis. Ditmar Rav Kista Amar halacha. He says halacha follows Reb Shimon. V'chein Rabbi Yochanan halacha. Rabbi Nachman Amar Ein halacha. Rabbi Nachman argues says halacha is not like Reb Shimon. Ein halacha K'rei Shimon Liel B'Treifos. And the Gemara Paskins, halacha doesn't follow Rishon Treifos. The animal is considered a treif. Halacha Rishon Ba'avel, but the halacha does follow Rishon Ba'avelos. Amar Shmuel halacha di Ramekel Ba'avel, and Avelos Ramar Mekel. It's only the Rabbanon. So therefore, even if you come in Makom Karov within 7 days before the mourners got up, then you can count even 1 day or a half a day of Avelos. I'll call a Mason Kula and Madcha Mitaso Arez and Meshubach. Now we're talking about differences between your parents dying and the other 5 krovim. I'll call Mason Kula Madcha Mitaso. If you Madcha Mitaso Arez and Meshubach, if you try to hurry up to bury him quickly, this is what the article is. I would say Madcha Mitaso means Rashi is Madcha Mitaso Mar Laotzio. You try to bury him fast. I would say the opposite. Madcha Mitaso is a decoy that you push it off. To push off the burial is not such a problem. By your parents, we'll leave with the art scroll. You shouldn't bury them right away. You should eulogize them more. If there a Shabbos or Yom Tov, then you can bury them quickly because you don't want to wait till after Shabbos. You can't bury on Shabbos. He wants them to be buried, like have a proper burial, not wait too long. I call him Mason Kul and Ratzah Mamai Bisko Ratzah Eno Mamai Bisko Ratzah Eno Mamai. For all of the other deceased, the other 5 krovim. Now we said you're not allowed to do malacha, but business transactions you're allowed to do. You want to buy some stocks on your stock portfolio. You're allowed to do that. That's not considered business. Business is physical exertion. Business, plumbing, electricians. Allah might on his parents. He shouldn't lessen the amount of transactions he does. I'll call on Mason Kulan. All the other 5 krovim, Kulan Ratzah Chol is Ratzah Ein Chol. He decides whether he wants to bare his shoulder or not. He doesn't have to bare his shoulder. This is one of the halachos. He wants to bare your shoulder, rip your shirt and bare your shoulder. Allah v'imo cholis. You have to, by your parents, bare your shoulder. Maisa, this is not really practiced nowadays. Why? I don't know. Maisa b'gadol adar echad shemeis aviv. There was a gadol adar that his father died. Shemeis aviv. V'bikish lachlos. He wanted to bear his shoulder. Bigish gadol ador echer imo lachlos, and someone else wanted to sympathize. Another gadol ador wanted to sympathize with him and bear his shoulder also to show that he's unified with him in his mourning. Therefore, the original person didn't bear his shoulder in order to spare the Gadol Dor from not bearing his shoulder. Amar Abaye, Gadol Dor, who were these people? Gadol Dor, Rebbe. Gadol Dor, Sheimo, Yaakov Baracha. The first person who was the Avel was Rebbe. And Yaakov was a person with him. Amri, Gadol Dor, Rebbe Yaakov Baracha. Some say the actual mourner is Yaakov Baracha, Gadol Dor, Shimo, Rebbe. The other person who wanted to sympathize with him was Rebbe. Bishlam al-Mandam Gadol Dor, Shimo, Rebbe. The person with him was Rebbe. Hainu Dinimna V'lo Cholos. That's why the original mourner didn't bear his shoulder. You want Rebbe have to do it. If it was Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, why did Rebbe, he was the actual mourner, why did Rebbe not chol? Why did Yaakov Baracha not cholates? Rishon Gamliel Nasi Hava. Sorry, if the Rebbe was the mourner and his father, who's Rishon Gamliel, died, so why would Rebbe not want Yaakov Baracha to bear his shoulder? He was a Nasi. Rishon Gamliel was the dead person. He was a Nasi. He was a president. He was the mayor. Everyone has to. Everyone has to bear the shoulder for a Nasi. The Gemara says Kasha. It's problematic if that's really the story, that the deceased was Rishon Gamliel and the mourner was Rebbe. I call him Misim Kulam Mistaper Lachar Shloshim Yom. Other 5 krovim, you can get a haircut after 30 days. Avimo Achigarobo Chavero. People have to say, you need a haircut. People say you need a haircut, then you get a haircut for your parents. I call Misim Kulam Nichnas Beis HaMishta Beis HaSimcha Lachar Shloshim Yom. You can go to a wedding, you can go to a party after 30 days. You have to wait 12 months. I'm a Rav Barachana Simchas Mereyus. Rav Barachana says that you can't go to a wedding. It's talking about not exactly a wedding. Based on Simcha, it's not a wedding. It's talking about Simchas Mereyus. It's talking about a friendly gathering when friends hang out, they have a party or whatever. Basically, Simcha and Mereyus, the Brisa says Simcha and Mereyus. You see, Simcha is 2 different things. Simcha is also a wedding. Simcha has to be a wedding. Mereyus is just a friendship, a party. Kasha. The Gemara says a kasha. Memar taught the following: Simchas Mereyus mostly kind of the altar. If it's a friendship gathering, a party, then you can even do it altar. But we had a price that says for Simcha and Mereyus. So Mereyus also you have to wait 30 days. Lo kasha. If it's an original party the person's making, then you have to wait 30 days. But if it's Puranasa, you're just paying back. One person made a party and spent a lot of money, and his friend also makes a party to pay him back. That you can go to even in 30 days. I'll call a Mason Kul and Korea Tefach. All the other dead people, when you do Kriya, you have to rip at least a Tefach of your shirt. I love Imo Achigalas Libo. By your parents, you have to make big enough rips so that your heart, your chest is bared. Amar Abahu Mikra. What's the pasuk that teaches this? Vayichazik David B'Gadav Vayikraim. He grabbed onto his shirt and he tore them. He grabbed onto him. Grabbing has to be like a tefach. You grab with your hand. Your hand has a tefach over here. I'll call a mason cool and I feel lavash asara chalukin in a korea elyon. He was wearing 10 layers of clothing. It's very hard. He's in Antarctica, so you rip all the begadim. I love vel imo koreas kulan. Only rip the top one. I'll be imo koreas kulan. If his parents die, he has to rip all of the begadim. Afi karasuso enama keves. He doesn't have to rip his handkerchief. Echad isha echad isha. This applies both to a man and to a woman who are mourners. First she rips when her parents die. First she rips her under clothing, her shirt underneath, and rips it, and then turns it around so that from the front you won't see the rip. And then she rips the outer garment so she doesn't bare her chest. I'll call a mason kulan ratza ma'avdil kamesafa shalom. Ratza Eino Ma'avdil, when he does a regular Kriya on the 5 other Krovim, he doesn't have to rip past the point of the seam of his shirt For example, over here, you see there's a tefach over here. You don't have to rip it so that it'll be a real rip and it'll be hard to stitch back up. He has to even rip the slit in his shirt so that it's a real hard to repair. Because even by other five krovim, Rehuda hold, you have to do a significant ripping, otherwise, and therefore you have to even rip the seam. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, my time of the Rehuda. What's Rabbi Yehuda's reading? The Chsiva Yechazik B'Gada V'Yikraim L'Shnayim Kroim. This is by Elisha when he was mourning Eliyahu when he went to Shemayim. He ripped his clothing into two kroim. Kroim Mimash V'Shnei Yikraim. The fact says that he ripped it. Any of the Shein L'Shnayim. When you rip something, you rip it into two. Obviously, when you split it, it becomes two parts. El L'Shnir and Kruim Kishnayim. It has to be recognizable that it's ripped like two, and therefore you have to rip it that it ripped the seam. I'll call Echal Amisim Kol and Sholel Achar Shiva. Ma'achel Achar Shloshim. All the five krovim, you're allowed to do amateur stitches to sew up your beged, your clothes, after 7 days. Ma'achel Shloshim, you got to do professional work to sew it up after 30 days. Alav V'imo Sholel Achar Shloshim Eino Ma'achel Olam. For his parents, he's allowed to do amateur stitching after 30 days, but he can never fully repair it. Va'isha Shalalta La'alter. They quote that Isha was a mourner. She could right away after she buries her father and mother, she's allowed to do this amateur type of sewing. Kiasa Ravin, because the Kavara Isha, she has to be dressed well. Kiasa Ravin, Amr Yochanan, Kol Mesim Ratza Korea Biyad Ratza Korea B'Kli. If he wants to rip with his hand, he can rip. If he wants to rip with a kli, with a knife, he can rip. Alav V'imo Biyad, he has to do with his hand. Amr B'Chib Rabba. All the other five deceased, besides his father and mother, he can rip privately in his own house. And his father and his mother, he has to rip publicly in front of other people. Also, for a nasi, you do it publicly. Mayor or president dies, you have to do it publicly. It's really true. And other talks about other mourner, people you mourn for. A nasi, a Talmid Chacham. They're only comparable to his father and mother's mourning in terms of that you can't restitch it in a professional way. Might have a feel in nasi. Aren't we talking about including a nasi that his father and mother are different than even a nasi? Lo lebar min nasi, except from a nasi also you have to do it in public. Nesia shachiv, one of the nasi died. Amle Rav Chisda, Rav Chanan bar Rava, kafi asisa v'kum Allah, take a big bima and stand on it, va'achvi kriyal alma, and show that you're ripping publicly. Al chacham kol es miyamim. If a Talmid Chacham dies, we're going to see you should be mourning a big Talmid Chacham when he dies. You should bare your shoulder, your right shoulder. Lav beisim mismol, the head of the court of the dayanim. You bare your left shoulder. Anasi mikan for the president, for Naftali Bennett, you bare if you were to die. May have Esra, you should live. Whatever your public opinion is, it's a human being. Anasi mikan. For president, you bare both shoulders. We'll stop here for today. Maybe I'll get a chance to do another shir. Maybe not. Or putting Enoch Ben C on a halt for now. I don't have time to really think about a chiddush. But maybe I'll come back to Dap at a later point. Give a chiddush. Have a good day. Bye.